You can go at any time during the week, day or night, and watch the amazing speakers that we've had in the weeks past. So we will be putting up, even Kelly's talk will be up by tomorrow sometime, so you can see it again. That being said, I'd like to welcome Reverend Kelly Isola. I just want to share a little bit about Kelly. She is coming to us from the Lee Summit area, and she works to inspire and awaken people to live from the inside out so that challenges and breakdowns are transformed into opportunities for growth. She also helps organizations create powerful, supportive cultures that focus on moving through change with ease, wisdom, and on purpose in order to enhance the quality of life on the planet. She's a very amazing human being. And Kelly, Reverend Kelly, we welcome you.
Thanks. I always wonder what someone's going to say. I mean, even though you write your own bio, you're listening to somebody talk about you, and it's kind of fun. And of course, it's a good practice. If you want a spiritual practice, write a bio, share it with each other, get all uncomfortable, and you'll find your shadow work. You'll find where your healing work needs to be done. I always have in very often in whatever class I'm teaching, some little practice in there about, writing about yourself, like the fabulousness of you. We are. Did you know that? Do y'all know that we're fabulous, that we're glorious? Like there's so much chatter around denigrating the human or the human body or, oh, I was just in my humanity. Yeah, thank God. Because our humanity is amazing. We are fully human and we're fully divine. How else do we make our divinity known except through our humanity? It doesn't mean that we're fabulous and wonderful and being our best self every single day. If you know somebody like that, please let me know because I want to hang out with them. I'm not there yet. Uh, so I just want to, point to that about because it's really become even more important than ever that we know this, that we live this, that it's not just a good theory, right? Love is not sentimental. Love is not a feeling. Love is not pink frosting and unicorns. Love is not smooth. Love is not conflict free. Love is messy, right? It just is. You know, in so I'm just FYI, if you know me, squirrel moments are a highlight for me. So I haven't actually gotten to my talk yet. This was just what's popped up since we started, half an hour ago. Um, that in that wonderful, quote in Corinthians about love that everybody uses at a wedding. Love is this, love is this. At one point, there's the sentence that says, "Love bears all things." I'm like, no, actually, it doesn't. And it's we need to, I got a whole talk on that, so I'm not gonna go down that road, but I want to leave that with you. It doesn't mean bears like holds up. Well, it could mean that. It also could be bears like Bert's, but love does not prop up racism. Love does not prop up sexism. Love does not prop up violence. Love does not bear all things. Love, though, allows me to move through, right? The principle of love, not the sentimental feeling that gets confused with love. But love is, Charles Fillmore has this quote that love is the cementing principle, right? So love is a cementing principle. It's also a magnet. He's got out of Talks on Truth, and I don't have it in front of me because I'm off topic. But that is more powerful for me. Where am I being a cementing element, right? Where am I being a cementing element? And it's a magnet, which means you know, We find each other. Like love finds each other. I don't mean like a magnet, like I attract to me. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that love finds each other. So we find each other. So we need our humanity because I got to find you because you're just as fabulous as I am on our best days, and we need to be fabulous together. Can I get a? Everybody's muted, but just give me an amen. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Woohoo. Right. The other thing, so I'm totally, if you know me, you know I kind of drop little bombs and have to tease things apart and make people a little uncomfortable, perhaps. But the scripture that was at the end of Daily Word today, I'm like, it says, the from Corinthians, Second Corinthians, the one who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and the one who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. No, that's not the principle of generosity. That is a transaction. Life is not a transaction. So if I reap sparingly, it doesn't mean I'm going to sow sparingly, right? It just doesn't. It doesn't work that way. It's not a one for one. So if you learned that, I'm going to invite you to unlearn it. The word generous, which is the word for today, the root of it means life-giving. Generosity is generative. So it doesn't matter the amount, right? It's also not, if I sow sparingly, it's not just about physical things being generous, generosity of heart, generosity of spirit, generosity of mind, generosity of time. It's not a quantity, it's a consciousness. So this reaping sparingly, sow sparingly, throw it out. Just, if you got a black Sharpie, open up your daily word and cross that scripture out. Sorry, you know, sorry, Daily Word. So and you can tell I'm a little worked up about it because I'm sick to death of this proofreading, proof texting that goes on with Daily Word. I'm sick to death of us not really embodying, embracing the power of our principles because it's not for the faint of heart. Unity principles, practices are not for the faint of heart. Trust me on this. And we really get to see it in the US for those in the 51st state, according to the orange dumpster fire apocalypse. Um, you certainly will get the side effects or the domino effect. And here in the United States, for me, even more so. Like, don't, this is not the time to put your head in the sand. And yet, all around me, I got people going, well, I just need to put my head down and get through the next 4 years. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. This is going to ripple effect for your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren. This is an apocalypse, like, really, not exaggerating. So, that's why I'm so adamant and so passionate about understanding our principles and really living them. Just it's not that God, this flow thing. It's not a flow of life. It's life. Flow indicates like it comes from somewhere and goes to somewhere. No, not at all. God, spirit, divine, principle, whatever word you want to use, is present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time. There's no flow. Let me say that again for you. God is present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time. Yes, I got my preacher pants on today. I just put that quote into the chat. God is present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time, which, believe it or not, connects to my cup of tea. I'm trying to use my cup of tea to, right? Let's take a breath together. Everybody inhale. It's a collective act of solidarity, breathing. So we inhale and exhale. So you probably wonder, what the heck is this about a cup of tea, Sunday morning, spirituality? Well, I'm going to tell you. This is about having a cup of tea, tasting a cup of tea, drinking a cup of tea. I know. Me, I've used the phrase, "Oh, now that's my cup of tea." Lots of us have used that phrase. And you're talking about something that, yes, like that's my thing. That's my cup of tea. Love that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We also use the term tea in a disapproving way, a disapproving context, right? Definitely not my cup of tea, right? And I got a lot of those on the list these days. That is not my cup of tea. But it's just a cup of tea is an expression that we use to describe something that we like or don't like, but certainly something we feel passionate about, right? Whether that passion is a big ick or the passion is woohoo, love that. That's definitely my cup of tea. I have taken to using tea as a metaphor for our journey. Tea has this uncanny ability to strengthen us, to kind of lift our heart, to kind of gladden our heart. And so when I talk about it, when I say, so the short was, the short title, because I like shorter titles, they're easy to remember, was have, taste, drink a cup of tea. Stretching it out is have a cup of tea, kind of like step one, step two, taste a cup of tea. You just sort of put it to your lips and taste it. And then drink, like drink it in, like, take it into the body. So just kind of hold that. Um, the uh, Thich Nhat Hanh, the many of us know Thich Nhat Hanh, he's deceased, but the Cambodian Buddhist monk said that we're most real when we are drinking tea. We're most real when we're drinking tea. So, what's your cup of tea? And what does it mean to have a cup of tea, to taste a cup of tea, to drink a cup of tea? What does all of that mean? Well, I'm going to back up a little bit and give you a little couple of um, factoids about tea is first of all, and some of you may know this, there's more than 20,000 benefits that can be attributed to this one plant. And if you're a tea drinker, you probably already know some of these. Alleviates stress, even though there could be caffeine in it, but you can get decaffeinated. It brings harmony. It brings a sense of connection, eliminates fatigue, and countless other benefits, like on and on and on. So just kind of hold it in your mind, like what does tea mean to me? What does tea mean to me? Um, you may not like tea, and yet it still has meaning for you, even if you don't drink it. Think about the history of tea, the events that have taken place over a simple cup of tea, whether it's growing it, selling it, cutting business deals, arranging marriages, choosing songs and readings for funerals, sitting with a friend, a book study. There's innumerable events that have taken place that continue to take place over a cup of tea. Here in the US, we have the Boston Tea Party, right? That was a fight for freedom. A lot of things can happen over a cup of tea. The other big one is the Mad Hatter's Tea Party from Alice in Wonderland. And where um, she just gets up and leaves saying, "This is the stupidest tea party I was ever at in all my life." And I've had those moments, this is the stupidest tea party I've ever been at. The stupidest fill in the blank. Maybe it's not a tea party. Tea is used, it's infused into rituals, it's in ceremonies. It's pretty much a part of, the human condition. Um, for some places, it's even considered a gift from the gods. It has, over the millennia, it has shaped international markets, right? It's been traded and grown in many places around the world. And it does, like I kind of already said this, but it does help smooth any conversation, right? So here's coming back to have a cup of tea, taste a cup of tea, drink a cup of tea. So, if you think about the last time you shared a cup of tea with someone, you may have found yourself becoming more relaxed and or something was kind of getting intense or a little bumping up against each other, which hopefully you do periodically because that's the nature of growth, that's the nature of evolution. And if you're having a cup of tea, that's usually a time where you just kind of pause, lift the cup. It's a chance to take in that cup of tea, to just taste it and then drink it, whatever it means for you. The thing that I love the most about tea, what I've learned about tea over the years, is that there is one tea plant. There are not multiple species. There is one, just one. Doesn't matter where it's grown in the world, one. There's only one tea plant. Many people think that there's more than one because, well, why not? You go to the grocery store or online or a tea store, and there's a gajillion varieties, right? Especially when it comes to like herbal teas. The funny thing is, though, most herbal teas are not tea at all. They're just other ingredients, right? Other maybe spices or other kinds of plants, like hibiscus or rose or lavender, different things like that. But there is only one plant that does all that I said, and that was not even the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't come in a variety. It grows around the world. Um, just as that one thing. And yet, look at all the things it's responsible for, right, in our experiences. Now, it's how tea is processed and where it's grown that sometimes make different kinds of tea that we know of, but it's still the one plant. It's the one plant. And it's interesting, um, you know, that we have this principle. So you said it at the beginning, one, there's this one presence and one power, just one principle. So God, principle, is the one divine idea from which all, you know, divine ideas come. That we take hold, we use that one divine idea, and through our humanity, right, express a multitude of divine ideas. And we use that one principle to express this wide diversity. Um, it's this one divine idea that we express and that we bring into form, right? We take this one infinite possibility, right? That this principle that is in its entirety at every point in space at the same time, we limit it. Yes, I said limit as a good thing, right? What divine idea am I wanting to express? Is it faith? Is it love? Is it beauty? Right? So I take this infinite that you can't even wrap your head around. The brain doesn't can't wrap its head around infinite and and all that. So I limit it to what divine idea am I wanting to express, am I wanting to bring into concrete form? And that's called divine order. We are divinely ordering. Divine order is not something outside of you like, well, it's all in divine order. Yeah, because you are divinely ordering it. So, of course, it's in divine order because you're divinely ordering it, whether you realize it or not. So, when I say our principles are not for the faint of heart, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. So, to have a cup of tea is to acknowledge that the Christ that you are, right, is to acknowledge that that Christ in you is your own spiritual unity with that infinite, with that principle, with that one divine idea, right? It is that it's that the Christ is that of you that is God being projected into visibility as you. It's why your humanity is so important because it's you're projecting into visibility as you. So Christ in you is your own spiritual unity with the infinite. So it doesn't look the same, right? We have 8 billion plus people. That's how many, different ways to project into visibility the Christ idea. Okay, hopefully you're still with me. So to have a cup of tea is to acknowledge that. Right? So then to taste a cup of tea is to begin that journey of finding ways to move beyond our contemplative nature and into practices, to be in action, right? You've heard me, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but that we need to get off our affirmations and go do something, right? And I love that earlier Cheryl asked, what's mine to do, right? And I would shift that a little bit and I would say, what is ours to do? Right? Unity has gotten from the beginning, has been very I oriented. And we've gone, for me, the pendulum has gone way too far into the individual and our own navel gazing. And the reality about healing, since unity is founded on healing, healing is actually communal. We don't do it alone. Not that there aren't things we don't do on our own, but healing is a communal thing. It takes each other, 2, 4, 20, 100, whatever. It takes all of us. So I would say it's not just what's mine to do, what's ours to do. Take your best friend and figure that out, right? Again, what's the divine idea that I want to project into manifest form, that I want to be in action? Well, get off your affirmations and go do it. Doesn't matter to me what it is, but is it, and not from a way of, sacrifice and suffering and being a suffering servant, and not as a whatever. I have to sow a certain amount of something in order to reap that. No, no, just delete that, right? Get your black Sharpie, cross it out. You can even go to Second Corinthians chapter 9 verse 6. You can cross it out there too. Yes, you can write in your Bible, but just that's what the tasting a cup of tea is to start, right? Think about tasting, right? The salivary glands get going. If you hold it in your mouth for a moment, there's lots of different, flavors or senses that go on. Tasting a cup of tea is very multi-sensory, right? You're holding a cup, it might be warm, you can smell it. Maybe you have some sugar or milk or lemon, and you could hear the spoon kind of tapping the teacup, and then you taste it. So it's completely multisensory. So to taste a cup of tea is to start that journey, right? To get up, to move the body, to how is it that I am going to project the Christ in our world? And it doesn't always necessarily, here's the thing we have to get over, is it doesn't necessarily feel comfortable, and it's not my job to make everybody comfortable. It's actually my job to afflict your comfort, which I may have done a time or two for some people this morning. I hope. So that's tasting a cup of tea, right? So have a cup of tea, right? Just have a cup of tea is sort of having it given to you, looking at it in front of you or holding it. That is claiming, owning the Christ that you are. It's not some flow, it's not out there, it's not some perfect thing. It's the Christ that you are, right? Fully divine, fully human, that you then take hold of and bring into action, bring into concrete form. Then finally, we drink the cup of tea, right? We hold a little bit, maybe we blow on it because it's kind of hot. But this is where the drinking a cup of tea now is, in the tasting, we're like, okay, here's my moving beyond some contemplative practices, got to get the body moving, what is it the world needs? What am I passionate about? Just do things you're passionate about. Otherwise, it just feels like obligation and work, and we don't keep doing it. But to drink a cup of tea then is to embody your most noble self in connection to the world. It's that Christ, right? And to move outside yourself, stop making it about yourself and contribute to what the world needs most. So when we drink a cup of tea, you're committed, right? And once you drink a cup of tea, even if you don't like the taste, you're committed. You swallow it and you've committed at least to that one sip. So to have a cup of tea, to taste a cup of tea, to drink a cup of tea is something we do together. Remember, it smooths the path of conversation. And how many, and maybe if you don't drink tea, maybe I'll, slide in coffee. But how many times have you been in a conversation with somebody and you find yourself over that cup of tea, and maybe if it's hot out, it's iced tea, but over that cup of tea where you find yourself bearing your soul, right? Where you become enlivened. right? And, and there's silence, right? You find the conversation kind of ebbing and flowing, and it can get very excited and very intense, even angry intense. And then it can, we drink the cup, we taste the cup of tea and we drink it, and then we're committed, right? Committed to whatever's next. It took, years back, I went to a tea plantation in South Carolina, um, is largest tea plantation in the US. And that's when I learned that tea was just this one plant. And for me, it took learning that one thing. I was like, ooh, like to just sort of, I'll take anything and sit with it and, kind of what can I do with that? Like some things I learn, I'm just like, oh, that's nice. But there was just something very powerful about knowing that tea is one plant all around the world, grown in many different places, and then went to find all these different ways it's been used, right? It back in the 90s, there was this thing in the US it was a movement. It was called slow life movement. And I think it was in Europe and the US, but it was about slowing down, the slow life, right? Come to the edge of exhaustion, need to slow down, right? So have a cup of tea, taste a cup of tea, drink a cup of tea. Remember that principle, God, divine mind, divine idea, whatever word you use for ultimate reality is present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time. Know that. Take that on. That is having the cup of tea, recognizing that. And the Christ, also part of having that cup of tea, is about the Christ. For it's that of you that is of God, of principle, and his principle being projected into visibility as you. So, projected into visibility as you, whether it's compassion, whether it's gratitude, whether it's silliness, it looks like you because you're fully human and you're uniquely designed to be you. Right. And if there's no yardstick to, oh, well, I hit my Christ today, but yesterday not so much. No, 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 no. There's no yardstick. That's why I told you to cross out that thing about reaping and sowing. And it's not a transaction. It's a what is. It's your Christ in you is your spiritual unity with the infinite. It's a what is. Our degree of awareness shifts, stuff goes on in life and we forget, we're not aware. But there's nothing to get to. There's no goal, there's no perfection to try to hit. Like, stop, just be. Having the cup of tea is just remembering it's present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time. To taste the cup of tea is to go, oh yeah, me, as fully divine, fully human. Drink the cup of tea is making the commitment to bring my fully divine, fully human, take my divinity, the Christ that I am, into humanity. Like, that's how I bring it forward. In all its glory and all its messiness, however that is, not in any way perfect, but in the way that it just is right here and right now. That's generosity. There's no measurement. Whatever it is that you bring forward, tasting that cup of tea, drinking that cup of tea, is generosity, is life giving, is generative. So have a cup of tea, taste your cup of tea, and drink your cup of tea together. Let's move into meditation. You can even have some tea with your meditation. You can have your eyes open, you can have them closed. Just take a breath. Just take a breath. Hmm. Feeling the activity of that breath that moves into the body and the lungs expanding. And then as you exhale, kind of the lungs contracting, same with the belly. And it's a movement, right? It's remembering that the body, the preciousness of the body. How else do you taste a cup of tea except with the body? How else do you make a divine idea manifest? How else do you move into concrete action with a divine idea, but through your humanness, through your humanity? Drinking the cup of tea, committing, whatever that is. So just breathe. What is it that moves us to bare our soul over a cup of tea, right? As that metaphor for our living our life. What is its value, its virtue, its inner significance, its purpose? Remembering that to have that cup of tea is a metaphor for acknowledging and remembering that first principle, that ultimate reality, that one presence, that one power, the divine, one divine idea from which all divine ideas emanate, is present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time. That's having your cup of tea. So just hold that for a moment. Hold that idea in its present, in its entirety, at every point in space, all the time. And where do I feel it in the body? And tasting that cup of tea is the invitation to, oh, where do I feel that in me? How does that occur for me? And then when you have that sense of where do I feel that idea in my body, right? Tasting it and then drinking it. What is that idea that I am or that I am drinking, that I am committing to? Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't have to be anything big. I can't eliminate hunger, but I can feed one person. So what is my cup of tea? It is possible for each of us to find the tea that speaks to us, that is more compassionate, more observant, more respectful. And then in closing, in your mind's eye, imagine you could see the bottom of a teacup. And at the bottom of the teacup is where all of our lives converge. If you can see the bottom of the teacup, then you drank your cup of tea and acknowledge a commitment and a responsibility to live out principle in whatever form that is your passion. And so that's where our lives converge. So let's just hold that in the quiet for a moment before we close. So take one more deep breath and bring our attention back to our Zoom space. And so it is, and so it is. Amen.